Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr, and this is episode 131, where I have broken the slump. If you've watched the last X number of episodes, kind of had a slump. Anyway, last night I was rolling with it, and I accidentally drew till 5 in the morning, which is fine because it was Friday night. But, I was looking at some stuff by Liam Sharp, who's drawing Wonder Woman, and by Joelle Jones, who draws, I think I talked about her last time, Lady Killer. And I was looking at how they did foliage, and I had one of those moments where it was like a stupid thought that I should have thought of before, but I didn't until you see how people are doing things. And the thought was this: ferns. That was the thought I had. Ferns. And it was like, light ascended from heaven and landed directly on my head. And ferns. Because I was looking at, I'll show you some pages. Anyway, so once I get an idea like that, I never want to knock off anybody else's style or how they do things. And so I was looking at their pages. I was studying how they might, use the brush or the nib or the marker or whatever they're doing to get the effect that they're going for. And once I loaded that in my brain, I closed out all of those pages, and then I pulled up pictures of ferns and foliage and ivy and moss on vines and those type of things. And I don't know why I had this particular thought before, but I realized we have this symbol system in our brain, and it occurred to me what occurred to me when I thought ferns was such a stupid thought to have, but it was like a leveling up moment. What occurred to me is I've been drawing leaves the exact same way my whole life. As a kid, I decided that a leaf was a particular shape, and that became what leaves are, and I stopped looking at what leaves look like, and I stopped trying to figure out the patterns. Anyway, so let me show you this page. So here's this page. I'll show you the whole thing. I have some major problems with the composition, which I'm going to fix down here. There's some huge issues. But anyway, check that out. On the edges there, if you look at the edges of the silhouettes, we've got all kinds of different plants. And I don't know if I can get, it's probably going to go out of focus at some point. But you can kind of see the epiphany that I had was kind of stupid, because it didn't occur to me that I should use different types of leaves. In a forest, there's going to have a bunch of different types of plants on the ground instead of just the one basic cartoony leaf that I've been doing forever. And so this whole thing is just kind of covered in a bunch of different things. And I would pull up photo reference of a bunch of different plants, and I would steal different things. And so you can see the moss down in there. This is super shaky. Let me steady it out. You can see the moss hanging off of the branches there. And I'm going to fix some of this down here because it's still pretty jacked up. But anyway, so that's the first thing that happened with this page is I nailed the foliage, the edges, the silhouette edges, instead of just having big old round cartoon bushes, which is what I used to do. And then I was those look weird. Nowadays put a couple leaves, it was Donald Duck's hair or something, because he has feathers, but they don't draw the feathers. They just go two little feathers to allude to feathers. But this isn't a cartoony thing. So anyway, so I have this, and I figured out how to do the edges when I'm blacking stuff out, right? But this page, in general, I usually will comp it out, and I'll get a flow going, and I'll thumbnail it. And I didn't on this one. I just kind of inked it as I went. So I'd draw this cart, and then I'd ink it. I had a general idea. And the idea is this. I wanted to have her surrounded by black, I wanted to have him heading towards the light, and I wanted to have the bird surrounded by light as well. Because the bird is good, and he's good, and she's bad, right? So she's in the shadows, kind of like looking from the shadows, enviously and annoyedly, whatever that word is. Because it's not annoyingly, because she's not being annoying. She's in the process of being annoyed while she looks. Annoyedly, yeah. If enough of us use it, they'll put it in the dictionary. So anyway, so that's what I did. I gotta find a better white ink. But the problem with this now is because I didn't do like a composition thing, I knew I had this general idea of having kind of this saddle valley shape that would lead us into the work. And I would repeat that with her head and this ridge. So I've got that repetition, saddle, saddle. But then down here, I've got this little triangle and this little triangle. And you come into the page and you go over here and then you come over here and then you just fall right off the bottom. So I'm actually going to raise the canopy and I'm going to eliminate the black here and here and kind of curve this up, and we'll have some kind of lines and some grass that kind of lead us into this and then follow up the tail. So if you start at the top where the words are going to be, we'll kind of be drawn into the image and we'll follow her. And we go from hat, which is light, down her arm, which is the brightest part because everything else is blacked out, into this, over here, and we'll come back around because there's not going to be any way to fall off the edge of the page because it'll be vignetted. And so that'll help the composition a lot. So that's what I'm going to do today. But I did want to tell you how I figured that out, right? Because I was so focused on all these leaves and all this detail, right? Like tonight I did the bark. And so the branch that he's doing, I kind of just freehanded that with the brush. And I can do that now because I've drawn so many trees intentionally to figure out like how they look. And this particular style of tree that I'm going for, the kind of the bonsai style. But I didn't do it down here. And so what I'll often do when I'm inking is I'll be like this close, right? I'm like 6 to 12 inches away from the piece of paper, which means my cone of vision is just a few inches. That's not the whole page. And so what I'll often do is before I think I'm done with something, I will change my perspective of it. And so in this case, I had been sitting in the studio for so long that I actually went upstairs and I put this on the fireplace and I walked about 20 feet away on the other side of the room and I looked at it. And that's where I saw probably what you guys are seeing right now when it's far away. Huge giant white wedge leading nowhere. And I was like, oh, that sucks. That's no good. So anyway, so that's the plan. So I'm going to do two things tonight and I'm just going to film it. I filmed making some of this foliage and stuff. The camera was too close. The camera's kind of crappy. And it was out of focus the whole time. Maybe I'll tack it on to the end. You guys can watch it if you want, but it's out of focus, so it's kind of blurry. Anyway, so I'm going to raise this canopy, and I'm going to kind of give us this mirrored edge, and I'm going to bring some of this. This is going to get a little darker because it's pretty noisy right now, and I just kind of want to elude two leaves rather than have like all this noise that draws your attention away from the main thing. The main thing is he's leaving the bird with her, and she's annoyed at the bird. So these three things have the highest contrast because that's the main thing. This is the highest point of contrast, the most black and white, because her expression is the storytelling on this page. So anyway, so there's my little tip. I'm not going to give any advice or ramble about how the Greeks in 5 centuries ago relate to some sort of obscure thing that I'm thinking about. Today I'm just going to draw a thing. So anyway, I am curious though, before I stop talking and draw this thing, maybe you're seeing me draw it now. I don't know how I'm going to edit this. What you guys do before you finish a page or finish an illustration or finish a panel or something to make sure that it's good, because I really like this walk and wait trick. And I know other people, if they're doing it digitally, they will flip it horizontally. And if you're doing it traditionally, you can turn it on its side or turn it upside down. And you can really start to see a lot of mistakes when you kind of change the orientation or change the perspective. And so changing your perspective is a really good thing to do. So, oh, I forgot. You guys, I forgot. This is awesome. Pretty excited about it. My daughter, Scarlett, has been bugging me to let her be on YouTube. And I'm like freaked out about it because you guys are pretty awesome. But YouTube in general can be pretty harsh in the comments section. There's a lot of people out there that just tear people to shreds. And I also don't want her to begin basing her self-worth on the number of likes or dislikes. Like, I don't want numerical metrics to tie to her intrinsic value and viewpoint of herself. And so those of you that are parents understand what I'm talking about. It's a weird world out there and I don't know how to handle it yet. So, but I turned comments off and we made a video and we started a YouTube channel called Pencil Power. And it's basically her and I drawing together while we talk about stuff. And the first video is up. And I will probably show you the intro and maybe a little bit of the video of what we're doing. But basically, it's me and Scarlett teaching the basics of drawing and how to think through different things. And we'll talk about different tools and stuff like that. It's for kids. So if you guys know any kids that like to watch drawing videos on YouTube, here's one aimed at them.
A hamburger with a face. Yay, yay!
And I act a little crazier on that channel because it's for kids. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, so that's that. So check that out. I'm going to draw now. Or maybe I already am drawing while I'm talking about that. I don't know. In any case, link to Scarlett's channel in the description of this video. And it's going to be a weird link because she doesn't have many subscribers yet. And so you're not allowed to do that cool URL thing until you have 100 subscribers. Anyway, it's fun. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Kuretake number 8 brush pen. And the Feud 55. And this one I use for scribbling. This one I use for detail work. So let's see how we go here. The first thing I need to do is get the fat part of the Feud pen. And this is where you just commit. This always freaks me out. But I'm just going to come in and block a lot of this out. So that I can, yeah, that's going to go too. See, if I don't do this, then I become too precious with what I'm trying to get rid of. I do want to be careful of the edge, though. I may play with that, so I'm going to leave that in there. I think this little speedline deal was a mistake. So I might do something with that as well. I don't know. We'll see. And then this, I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Just going to come in and get rid of all that jazz. This is a little dark. And I just am kind of doing quick movements here because with this you can kind of facilitate this leaf shape I was going for. So okay, then over here I want to come right up. I want to leave a lot of space because this is not the detail part, and so I'm going to come in here and we'll just get rid of all that. Okay, that's the part that freaks me out. Because when I do this and I just scribble over stuff, it makes me think of all of the things that I love this part, but I might just black out that whole thing. I don't know. We're gonna we're going to come in here. We'll make this better. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm done with this one for a little while. And now let's get out our brush pen. And the idea is to obscure the edge. And so we might have a few like little bits of rock that kind of stick up here. But I don't want to do too much rock over here. And grass is a super easy thing. It's just kind of a series of little swipes. But what I really have fallen in love with is doing kind of the detailed leaf work. And so one of the things that's really important when doing leaves, I've discovered, is getting the pattern correct. And so with ferns, you have a stem down the middle, and then you have kind of this football shape that's built with these guys kind of coming off. Now I could sketch this, but I like a little bit of the option of making mistakes, because that gives it a little bit of imperfection, because I have a tendency to be too perfect and precise, which is why I've started inking with a brush, because I'm bad at it. And so it allows me to let go of a lot of the things that a nib, I would just obsess over the perfection. And it just looks really robotic. I like nibs, but I like the fluidity of brushes. I don't think I'd ever get, well, I don't want to say that. I might get to the point where you'll notice I'm turning the paper. The reason I'm doing that is I want the little tiny leaves to taper at the ends, and this is a little too perfect, and so I'm actually going to just kind of, the idea is to just break up the silhouette. I'm not finishing enough sentences here, but that is what happens when I'm talking and drawing at the same time. Okay, so let's finish a few of those sentences. So I don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. I also don't want it to have be the only plant in this area. And so after I get something, I'll often come in and add a couple suggestions of other plants. So that's one way, right? I'm going to do just a couple more hints of ferns coming out of some of these. And so one thing that I found that's helped a lot is if you don't show the entire leaf on everything, or you show different parts of different things being cropped off, that can be really helpful, because think about the irregularity and randomness of nature, and that's kind of what we're going for. And so I don't really want cross-hatching, but different tufts of grass are going to go in different directions. The whole idea is that I don't want a clean line here. I want to be able to not quite tell where it starts or stops. See how you can kind of, like up in here, it's just a bunch of different things. So that's one type of fern, tiny little leaves. I want to do another type right over here. And it's where the leaves are a little bit bigger. Same basic pattern, except this time, instead of going a V shape, I'm just going to go straight across. It gets a little bit bigger, but I'm going to have it be kind of bending. Okay. And so now we're going to do bigger leaves. And I'm a little bit more precise with the placement of these, because it's a slightly less random. And you'll notice that there's always like one at the end. And notice that we're not always going to be dead on to these plants either. which means that in a minute I need to do some side views and some 3/4 views of these leaves, or it's going to look really robotic. So I don't know if any of you have ever tried to make your own Photoshop brush and have it be supernatural, but the idea is to like hide the edge. Because as soon as you see repetition, the effect is destroyed. And so the idea when doing this is to try to get rid. Now, I've got these two parallel lines that I really hate. And so I'm actually going to break those up just a little bit. I don't know, maybe this is a type of plant that's got kind of a bushy end to it and just a big leaf up here and a bigger stem. And I messed some of that up, and this is where grass comes in. So we're just going to cover that with some grass blades. I don't really like the shape of this, but that's okay. I'm just going to obscure the edge of this line. And so now I'm going to go, instead of normally pull away from the tip. So if the tip of your brush is this way, you can go sideways or you can go away. Normally you don't go this way, but with leaves and what I'm about to do, I'm going to push in that direction. And the reason is I want this to bend and then flick at the end as I lift. And it gives you kind of this leaf shape that's irregular because I don't know which way it's going to flick. And it's super thick to kind of raggedy thin. I'll fill in some of that. And then we'll go grass. Tiny little grass. Okay, and we'll do a couple more of those. And I'm going to do in this group of 3 here, kind of like a wheat pattern there. And then let's like have like this, and we'll just kind of have a little fuzzy tip, as if that's some kind of flower or something. I'm just going to come in real fast and shade this a little. Bring that down, because that's too bright. Okay, get that edge. And this is just coming really close to this, and so I'm just going to kind of come in here and just kind of mask this edge just with some stippling, I think they call that. Little fern edge here. Okay, and so what we've done here is we have, kind of an edge that you can't tell is there anymore. It's hard to tell where it is. And I'm actually going to come in. It feels weird to have 1, 2. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to actually make another fern right in here, just to kind of break up that space. And so when I'm doing this, I don't really have a plan. I just keep going until it looks good, and then I stop before it looks bad. Hopefully, that is the goal. And we'll need some grass blades coming out here. Okay, so that's not bad there. One thing as well is if there's something that divides a piece of white space like this, it's nice to have something cross into that. And so I'm going to do a few of these grass blades just to kind of cut in and break up that space. It kind of connects that area there. And then I'm just going to add a few little bits to hide that line as well. Okay, so that's feeling a lot better. This needs some bushy area here, so I'm just going to kind of fill it in. And then let's go leaves in groups of 3. Another pattern that I notice is things that break off into V's. And so I'm going to come up really lightly. I'll break off into V's here, like that. And then each one of these is going to turn into a tiny star shape. So kind of like this. And this is where I try to get that Japanese feel, because this story takes place in Japan. And so each one of these is going to be, I actually don't know what type of leaf that is, but in my research, when I was looking at bonsai trees, the bigger bonsai leaves had kind of this star-shaped pattern. And I want that to kind of come down here. And then we'll do this one as well. And again, overlap is important because nature overlaps. There's a big white spot right in there. I'm just going to kind of do that. All right. And we need some grass coming out of there. Okay. And so now I'm going to push some leaf groupings here. That feels really weird, so I'm just going to kind of section that off. And this is all going to kind of blend into this grass tuft. And that leaf is a little odd on its own. Let's put like a little flower in here. Okay. And that's getting a little ugly, and so I'm going to put like a fern top. Like that. And then we'll have it kind of spread out like that. And like that. And then we'll do the other side of that. Have that taper off. There we go. Fill in the rest of that. Okay, so that's nice. And then I don't like this rock here anymore. So that goes bye-bye. And this is just kind of visual noodling at this point. Just trying to break up the spaces in a way that looks organic. Okay. So that's all right. This gets a little weird right here. I don't know what's going on there, so we're going to dress this up just a little bit. And let's add some of those push leaves. Do kind of like a succulent pattern here. So one thing, you'll notice I'm talking about patterns a lot. One thing that I think is really important is that you begin, the reason that I can do branches like this now without looking at reference is because I looked at enough reference to where I get that feeling in my hand of what the pattern is, what nature's pattern is in growing that particular plant. And even if it gets damaged by animals or other thing, there's still a particular pattern that makes that plant look like a plant. And so that's important to kind of look at. I like this. I don't like this. I'm just going to get rid of the rest of that rock. No rocks down here. Just plants. Okay, that's a little bit better. We'll have some grass that kind of competes with this edge. Let's fill it in. Okay. So now, let's say that we have some we need some vines that are going to point us this direction. So I'm just going to turn this, whatever that mark was, is now a vine. And I'm going to have it dip. And so let's start over here. And we'll dip. And we'll come up like this. And we'll have that go behind. One thing that shows depth is occlusion, where something is in front of something else. And I already screwed this one up. So we'll get our white out here in a minute. But when something is in front of something else, it has a shadow. So this is going to cast a shadow on that. Like that. So now we know that this one is in front of that one. And we'll do the same here. But that's smaller, so it's just a little bit. Okay, but I want like stuff hanging off the bottom here, so I'm going to white that part out. This is what I get for talking and drawing at the same time. So we're just going to give ourselves a little bit of space. And this is where I'm going to drag towards me and away from the tip of the pen. I'm going to wiggle my hand back and forth, and I'm going to press it towards and away from the paper at the same time. And that's going to give me a really irregular line that looks like dripping, nasty moss. It looks kind of cool. And it's going to have kind of a U shape like this. I'm trying to reflect that U shape as much as I possibly can. She goes against that. If you notice, like, everything has this smiley face to it except her hat. The major line of her figure goes opposite that in a frown. That was a good character design. So, little happy little accident, as Bob Ross calls it. What was I doing? Oh yeah, moss. And so moss is going to hang off. This is the trick as I was looking at moss. Is you have stuff that face forward and then it drapes over. And there's stuff that's in the same shape except it's blacked out because it's behind. And that adds all this depth. But you don't want it to be like matching. So you want it to be a little irregular. Like that. And then I'm just going to have little barely visible touches that trail off and kind of give it some nastiness like that. Another one of these. I'm just going to have this one kind of like that. Okay, so now we have that. And I'm going to have this kind of black out. Okay. Now this is where, in reality, this wouldn't happen, but because I'm working in one value, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a halo edge to define that part. And again, I'm talking and drawing at the same time, so I screwed it up. So let's come in here and break that up like that. There we go. All right. Okay. So now I just need to come over here like this. I'm going to do some wisteria, which is kind of like a branch that comes over like this, and then it's just got weird drippy stuff. This is looking terrible. Grass leaves. We'll have another fern come out here, so let's do some of those star things to kind of mirror that image. So we'll go here, and then there, and then there, there. And these come in groups of 3 that are kind of like in a chicken foot. And then they kind of, we'll do another group here as if there's some sort of plant that's spitting out a couple branches that do this. So anyway, so I don't know. So the takeaway for me today was variety. I've been doing the same thing for so long, and I didn't even realize it. And I'm just going to have some of this action. So mixing it up a little bit and adding different plants and things. That was huge. Huge. So I feel like I kind of leveled up on my foliage here, which is nice because I've been, that's a lot of this book. This needs something. I feel like I'm framing that. So I'm going to come in and give myself a little bit of a bigger leafed fern. One problem I'm having is this paper buckles if you get too much ink on it. And it's super frustrating because a lot of what I'm doing right now is I need like a feel on the depth. What angle do I want that at? There we go. And so by the depth, I mean like the distance of my brush tip from the paper because of these little marks. And so when the paper buckles, oh, it screws me up so bad because it rises to, it's like a bubble here. And so my distance is off. I always screw things up when that happens. Okay, that's looking good. Lots of nice smiley U shapes down here near the bird. You notice the bird is in white and she's in black, and he's heading towards the light. And so good characters, bad character. Interaction between these two. So you have kind of this zigzag, but then we don't fall off the page. So we zigzag, we follow into this branch, and we come back up this noise, and we can kind of float around in here for a little while. So that's nice. The other thing I wanted to do was, I'm going to step back actually for a minute. Because this looks very repetitive to me. And there's this hard edge here now that I don't like, and so I'm going to break up this edge a little bit. And I'm just going to come in and we're going to darken a lot of this. Get rid of some of these bigger chunks. Okay, now let's fix this part. I don't exactly know what I want to do, but I think I'm going to have some dripping moss. That's kind of coming from nowhere. Maybe it's wisteria, maybe it's moss. The only difference will be what color I color it. So it'll probably be moss because it'd be a bad idea to have a bright pink thing in an otherwise muted page where I'm trying to not draw attention. So let's do some of those, and I need some stuff to break up this edge. I was going to do something down here. I'm going to experiment with it, and if I don't like it, I can just block it out. I got to practice with that more. There's like a way to make this look like a little rim light of grass, but I'm not hitting it. So let's see if I can break this up a little bit. Nope, just looks like noise, so it goes away. I don't even know if this is necessary, but I do like this idea of bouncing in this zigzag pattern, and so I do kind of want a light spot here. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to do some more of those crowfoot groups of 3. I should figure out what the name of that is. So, some of those. Do some here. Push some leaves. Break up that edge. Fill that in. I'm going to knock a lot of this back with color, so once I get into Photoshop, this will be a very dark value. But it's still very problematic here. So I'm just going to kind of break up this edge. I need something to break this whole thing up, so I'm just going to go. Okay. So that's not bad. Okay, so just scanning now for any edges that I don't like or that I want to improve. These need to be sharper rocks, sharper edges than round. And this can be, come down here, this can be kind of some grass. It's kind of exploding out of the crag. But I don't want to draw too much attention to this. I want to cover up this corner. I'm just going to do a little There we go. Yes, little flowers on the end of these. Some kind of flowering bush. Okay. All right. So yeah, so that's basically what I learned. And that's pretty much it. So some patterns in the leaves and some of that action. And I'm just going to come in here and kind of fan this out a little bit. So I'm going to add some tiny little details to the edges of the leaves coming off of the tree branch. Just because that'll help. All right. Anyway, so that's that. I know it's a little bit different of a video than what I normally do. Just going to touch up some of these bits with some white. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So I just want to break up some of these spaces so it's not just a giant block of black. But yeah, I could do more of this like talk and draw thing. I don't do a ton of it because, I don't know, for me I'm just not good at actually drawing and thinking at the same time, or processing the words that I'm going to say. Technically, the right side of your brain, when you're in a creative mindset, which is artistic, obviously, that is not a space where verbal communication is easy. So if I was doing analytical stuff, I could talk all day long. That's not a problem. But doing creative things and talking is actually pretty hard. So I like it. I'm gonna call it a day here. So thanks for watching. Wow, 32 minutes. This is a long video. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So in case you're wondering, Kuretake 55 Feud brush pen. Where's the camera? I don't know if that's catching the light. It's got two ends. One is big, thick. I like that end a lot. And the other end is actually really sharp and stiff. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? There we go. And it actually kind of spits ink a little bit. It's a little bit unruly, but it's nice too. And it's pretty sharp and really stiff for felt. And then the other main one that I used was this number 8. I've got I don't have it. Where is it? I've got the red barrel as well. A lot of people like this. I'm pretty sure I prefer the number 8 than the red barrel. They're both Kuretake. And they're both good. This one has a longer, thinner point. If you want to look at that in comparison. It just seems to be thinner. I don't know if it's... And this one seems to go into like the dry brush territory more. If you go quicker, it's more fluid on this one. And they frustratingly use different cartridges as well, which is kind of annoying. But this one uses the same cartridge as a nib fountain pen that I use. So, I don't know. Anyway, they're both cool and I carry them both with me. But we will catch you guys later. Look at my stuff and all that jazz and like and subscribe and whatnot. And I'm out.